Hi, my name is Bella. I love reading and talking about books, and I am brand new to booktube. So I am doing this booktube newbie tag video to have like a little introduction. So good to meet you. I have my notebook here with all of the questions written down so that I wouldn't forget them. Why did you start this channel? So I have been making content online for a little while now. I stream on Twitch and I've been doing that for a couple of years, and I do a combination of gaming and co-working, and I do a lot of book discussions on Twitch, which is super fun. I also recently started posting on YouTube on a different channel where I post like video game related content, and I really enjoyed that. So I wanted to make a space where I could continue exploring YouTube, which I've really enjoyed, but do book discussions like what I have on Twitch, but a little different. So the book streams that I do on Twitch are usually just me like rambling about books that I've recently read, and they're really interactive, which is super fun, and I really value that content space. I also sometimes have like guests on my channel, and I'll do like interview style discussions about like my friends' reading preferences and like just different book related conversations. Anyways, I really like Twitch for a like book content space because it is so interactive, which is really, really fun. I do find that it's not a great space for me to like have a point that I want to make and then make it because it's so interactive. It's just a discussion, which I, again, cannot say this enough, I love, but I'm excited to try something a little bit different with YouTube. So I really enjoy the book content that I'm already making on Twitch, but I'm excited to try something a little different. What fun or unique things do you bring to booktube? So I I want to approach this question first by saying I think that it is probably bold of me to say that I bring like anything unique to booktube, because I think there's so many folks in this community that there are lots of other people who have similar like reading preferences and views and things like that. But I want to tell you about some of the like niches that I hope to be in. Not that I think that I'm like totally unique to those spaces, but that like this is the somewhat unique content that you can expect around here. And like I'm hoping is an interesting perspective. So first of all, I'm queer. I identify as bisexual and queer. I use she, they pronouns. And because of that, I read a lot of queer books. I think queer books are super interesting to like find characters that I relate to and that help me understand my queer identity, but also just to explore the like vastness of the queer experience. So I read a lot of queer books and I will talk about a lot of queer books, and I love finding queer elements of like all of the books that I read. Two, I do not have like a specific genre that I read. So I know I have a lot of friends that like prefer a specific genre or stick in one specific genre. I am not like that. I will read just about anything. So I really enjoy fiction, but I also read nonfiction. I like fantasy. I like science fiction. I like dystopian books. I like romance. I will read almost any genre, pretty much any genre. So I think that's kind of fun, and I really like being able to have discussions about books, like books within a genre, but also themes in books or like similarities in books across different genres. I think that's fun. So lots of different genres, and then sort of like to point five, another element of that is that I love to read nonfiction. So I feel like I see a lot of people discussing fiction, which is great. I love fiction books. Who wouldn't? But I think nonfiction is also super interesting. And I went through a period of time like not really appreciating nonfiction, and now I love nonfiction. So I think it'll be fun to get to talk more about nonfiction books. Also, so third point that I want to make that I think is maybe a little bit unique is that I do not want to grow my physical book collection. I would like to try to keep my physical book collection relatively small. While saying that, my physical book collection right now is like well over 200 books, which I do not think is small. I think that's a lot of books. But basically, I think that it's really interesting to like books take up a lot of space and also cost a lot of money. So I think that it's fun to sort of challenge myself to try to read more without necessarily like growing my physical collection at the same rate. So I love talking about my local library and all of the different books and resources that I have through that, and other ways of getting books either for free or like in ways that don't grow my physical collection, but also that don't support huge bookstores because I'm an indie bookstore lover and famously not a fan of large bookstores. So yeah, but anyways, I think that's like again, I know I'm not the only person doing that, but I think it's interesting to talk about reading while like trying to minimize the consumerism aspect of it. There's a lot to unpack there, and if you love the element of reading that is collecting books, I am so thrilled for you, and that's fine. I'm just letting you know that like that's my goal is not to collect books. So, yeah. What are you most excited for with this new channel? So my like main number one answer to this question is friends and connections. One thing that I've really enjoyed through talking about books on Twitch is getting to meet new people and like bond with people over books. I think talking about reading is like a great way to connect with people. So I'm really excited to do more of that. I also am really excited to learn more. I find the more that I talk about books, the more I learn, either because I'm getting recommendations from people or I'm hearing other people's perspectives. Like, there is nothing better than sharing my take on a book and then hearing someone else say, like, actually, I read it differently. Like, oh, that is my favorite. So also learning. And then also I'm hoping that this channel will help me like learn and grow as a person and content creator a bit. There are some things that I find I struggle with, like being concise, and conveying my thoughts or critique about a book. Those can be kind of challenging for me. So I'm hoping that through the practice of like talking about books and uploading videos about books, I can maybe get a little bit better at that. Why do you love reading? I think there are a lot of things that I love about reading. One of them is definitely the classic like escapism, getting to experience a different world, a different, person's experience, all of that. I think it's super fun just to like be transported into a book. But also I find the more I read, the better I am at like getting work done and focusing on things. Like, I find reading to be really beneficial for my brain, and I think that's very cool. I also love that I can learn through books. Obviously, when I'm reading nonfiction, I am pretty much always learning. Like, every time I'm reading a nonfiction book, I get to learn about something I do not know about. But even in fiction books, like, there's always so much to learn, and I really love that. What book or series got you into reading? I don't have a great answer for this because I don't really remember a time where I wasn't into reading. I've been into reading ever since I was a little kid. And I distinctly remember reading series like the series of Unfortunate Events was a big one when I was younger. But like, I don't know if that was the first thing I read. Probably what it was when I was quite young, my grandfather used to read like picture books to me. And I think that's my earliest, like a lot, not just like occasionally, like all the time. And I think that's kind of one of my earliest memories of like really connecting to reading. But like I have never I don't recall a time where I didn't like reading. I have enjoyed reading ever since I could read. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I think I have one question for booktubers, and it is how do you balance reading for content with reading for your own personal, like, joy of reading? I know for me, it's really important that any content that I make like supplements my own personal joy of reading and that I'm reading things that I genuinely want to read and then making content off of them as like a bonus. But I'm wondering what other people think about that or how people manage those, I don't know, like competing reasons for reading. What challenges with BookTube will be hardest to overcome? My answer for this question is really directly related to my answer for the previous question, and I think what might be challenging for me is maintaining a sense of balance with reading for the enjoyment of it and reading for the like content creation of it. This is a challenge that's not like new to me because I have been talking about books on Twitch for a while, so it's kind of been in the back of my brain. But I think with creating content on BookTube, it'll just increase the amount of book related content that I am making or thinking of. And I don't ever want that to hurt my just like natural enjoyment of reading. So I don't know if that will be a challenge, but it's something that I want to be like very aware of from the start. Additionally, I sometimes find it challenging to explain my thoughts on books. I am a rambler, I am not very concise, and sometimes I just really struggle to put my words together, particularly related to my thoughts on a book. Like when it comes time to write or explain a review of a book, I often like feel like I'm at a loss for words. So I think it'll be a challenge for me to like get good get good at explaining book reviews or explaining my thoughts on books. When did you start reading? Like my answer for the question about what series got me into reading or what book or series got me into reading, I don't know. I have enjoyed reading ever since I was a little kid, and particularly as a kid, I don't remember any time where I wasn't reading. As an adult, I didn't really start reading for my own personal enjoyment as an adult until a few years after college, well, like 1 year after I graduated college. And I think that's because in high school and college, I found reading for my own personal enjoyment to be a little bit tougher because I had to read for school. And so it put that weird pressure of like, one, when do I make time to read? And two, like when you're being told how and what to read, I don't know. It just changed my relationship with reading, which is okay. But yeah, about a year after I graduated college, I got really into reading for like my own personal enjoyment. And then in 2020, when everything shut down at the beginning of the pandemic, I started reading like wild. I think I read the most books in 1 year that I've ever read in 2020, which makes sense. But yeah, anyways, read a lot as a kid, got into reading as an adult right after college. Where do you read? So I definitely do most of my reading at home, but I read like everywhere in my house. So I read in bed a lot during the day, and also most nights before bed, I'll read like 30 minutes before I go to sleep. I also read like in my office at my desk, in my house, in my home office at my desk. I'll read in my living room on the couch. I will read at my dining room while I'm eating. When it's warm outside, it's very cold right now. When it's warm outside, I like to sit in my backyard and read. I love listening to audiobooks and like walking around my neighborhood, or I'll also listen to audiobooks when I'm doing like chores around the house. But yeah, I read mostly in my house, but everywhere in my house. And sometimes if I'm feeling like I need to get out of the house, I will take a book to a local coffee shop and read at a coffee shop, which I really enjoy doing because I really like coffee. Also, in the summer months, sometimes I get to visit the lake, Lake Michigan, and I love reading on the beach at the lake. That's one of my favorite places to read. So, what kind of books do you like to read? So, like I mentioned earlier, I will kind of read anything. I don't have a specific like genre or niche that I stick to, but I tend to really like queer books. I like romance, but I'm a little bit particular about romance. I don't prefer smut. No, no issue if you do. Read what you enjoy, and I love that for you. But it doesn't, personally, it doesn't hold my attention all that much. Um, but I love dystopian books. Dystopian books are some of my favorite type of books. And I really enjoy nonfiction about nature in particular. But yeah, I'll read kind of anything. I don't have like a niche. Because I have such a bad answer for what kind of books I read, I wanted to just like name a few of my favorite books to give you a sense of the kind of reading that I enjoy. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty, On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden, This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Motar and Max Gladstone, Know My Name by Chanel Miller, How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell, A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, Legendborn by Tracy Dion. And this is not like every book that I've ever read and liked. These are just some off the top of my head that I really like to help give you like a better picture of some of the books that I like. I know it's hard to know if your likes will vibe with someone when they're saying, I read everything. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a better sense of what I like. What does your book collection look like? So I live with my partner and we have, between the two of us, well over 200 books. They're not all mine, some are his, most are mine. And we've got a pretty wide variety of books. We have a lot of nonfiction, but also a lot of fiction, just like kind of a bit of everything. We don't have one specific spot where all of our books live. I feel like I always see people with these like beautiful full walls of bookshelves or like a dedicated library space in their house, and that's so cool, and I'm sometimes a little bit envious. We have a couple different spots in our house where we keep books. One is the shelf behind me that is in my bedroom. I like to keep some of my favorites or like recent reads in here. I also have a little rolling cart next to me that I don't think you can see, but I have a little rolling cart where I keep like my books that I'm about to read or books that I've borrowed from the library so I don't accidentally like hide them somewhere. I have a set of shelves in my living room on either side of a fireplace where most of my books live, but it's not enough shelves to keep all of my books, so that's just like the bulk of the books. I have some of my graphic novels in my office. I have a random pile of books in my office. I have random piles in like specific spots in the living room. I have books kind of all over the place. So yeah. Okay, I think I have gone through all of the questions for the booktube newbie tag. So I hope this gave you a better sense of like who I am and the type of books that I'll be talking about around here and the type of content you can expect here. If any of this sounds like your vibe or if we have anything in common, I would love to hear from you. Like I said earlier, I'm super excited to meet new people. That's like the biggest thing that I'm excited for here on BookTube. So I would love to say hello. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you around.